I'm here today with a few of my friends from Singapore. I have two confessions to make. The first, as James has said, I'm a lawyer, or by background. And lawyers, as you know, never listen to instructions, argue excessively, and more importantly, come up with their conclusions mostly without any justifications. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is that you have heard Jack say for a long time that in order to understand GIS, the most important function is geography. I'm going to challenge that, and I'm going to say that today, in today's context, GIS, geospatial, is beyond just geography. In fact, it is the leveler in which you can bring history and geography together. And I can say that because I'm neither a geographer nor a historian. The second thing that I have to confess is I'm also not like Neil. I am not a geek. Lawyers, as you know, cut down trees, use a lot of paper, so this is what I have. But the reality today is that with technology, with the way the world is moving, we are moving, obviously, from a world of paper into a world of digital, and after that, into virtual augmented reality. So my talk today, I'm going to share a little bit about the democratization of geospatial, something that is no longer in the realm of companies, in the realm of a select few, but really in the hands of each and every single individual. You and I, we are today all geospatial users. Jack tells me that he believes 80% or more of business decisions today are made with location in mind. Actually, I believe it's fundamentally more. Every app that you download today, whether or not they look at your location, the first thing they ask you is, can I have permission to use or turn on your location? And that fundamentally transforms the way we look at geospatial, location-based data, location-based services. A little bit background of Singapore, if many of you are not familiar, we are a small city-state. We take up about 720 kilometers of landmass. To travel from one end to Singapore to the other, it takes at most 40, 45 minutes without traffic. With traffic, it takes about an hour. So you can imagine the scale that we have. Some people will tell you that Singapore is an anomaly. It arose, gained independence about 54 years ago, but it was never meant to be. So in our system today, we continuously look at how data, continuously look at how information can help us rationalize a lot of the decisions that we do, help us to plan further to not only ensure that Singapore continues to remain vibrant, but continues to remain relevant in this world. I asked my folks to sort of like pull out a chart of how we see geospatial evolution over the years. And this is a summary that probably some of you are familiar with if you've gone through the ages. As I gather, Jack started Esri in 1969, so exactly 50 years ago. I haven't put it quite there, but you will probably see it's within the timeline 1950s to 1970s. From how Jack describes the power of geospatial, the power of GIS, you can imagine what a visionary he is when he and his wife Laura, right at the beginning of this evolution, felt the potential of geospatial. What struck me in this chart is that in the 1980s, GPS became commercial. GPS became commercial. Many of us started to become aware and in fact started to harness the use of location data. But more importantly, in fact, going into the 2000s, what you're effectively seeing with the advent of smartphones is that now everybody becomes a personal sensor in their own right. And this is powerful because now everybody consumes data, everybody uses data, more importantly, location-based data. Singapore today has a phone penetration rate of about 150%, which means that every Singaporean today has 1.5 mobile device. I actually have 3. So you can imagine the amount of data that is collected even as I toggle between devices. And for many of us, the amount of decisions that we make based on our surroundings. So we are effectively going from a geospatial evolution to a geospatial revolution. From a public policy perspective, it is critically important because there are many social and economic implications that come from this. So because I'm not a tech geek, I can't tell you very much about the technology, but what I hope to share with you is really the Singapore's thought and governance structure and our thinking about how we can better make use of geospatial data to actually help to advance decision-making as well as improve the lives of citizens on board. What I've said just now simply shows that today geospatial is becoming commoditized and democratized. Every one of us today becomes a party to this whole entire ecosystem, which Jack talks about, the intelligent nervous system. It's almost like looking into a small box where you have a kid's toy and the kid opens the treasure box and seeing the immense opportunity that you have. I'm not sure what impact you have if you open the entire box, but that small box gives you a glimpse of the immense potential that you have around you. But what does it mean for us? Really, at the end of the day, the democratization of geospatial means that it allows us to create opportunities for all, from governments to businesses, to people, to countries, and ultimately to the world. Neil spoke about the ability to form partnerships, collaborations between both the private and public sector, and I'll share a little bit about that with you. But we liken the geospatial revolution to perhaps the coming of cars in this world. And as we talk about it today, cars are also, transport is also undergoing their own form of resolution, from people-driven to autonomous vehicles. But autonomous vehicles will never happen without geospatial. So what we are looking at today is how we can architect an entire ecosystem, not only with the government, with private sector, with individuals, but also more to create a structure, a seamless structure where it is trustworthy, it is responsible, and more importantly, it allows us to take decisions that make everybody take better lives. Geospatial development in Singapore is actually not new. For a long time, we have been using a lot of geospatial data. If you again look at the chart, and I will give credit to many of my fellow friends from other public agencies, we actually have been using geospatial technologies and data for the better part of the last 10 to 15 years. The critical point came probably sometime around 2008, 2011, thereabouts, if you can see. We created this platform called Geospace, where it allowed, or at least it created a platform where different public agencies could share data themselves as well as extract data. Now, the problem with sharing data is this: the talk of data is easy, but the sharing, the execution is immensely difficult. Nobody wants to share data without seeing what others have. It's almost like, show me yours, and then I'll show you mine. So it literally took almost a decade before we had the conviction as well as the persuasion to get everybody on board and to start telling everybody, look, without sharing data layered on geospatial data, your data is probably not as powerful as it should be. The second thing that happened was probably somewhere in 2010, where Singapore undertook what we call a one map structure. It is really the government's effort to create a map that is publicly available with sufficient data on it so that not only could businesses use it, but also members of the public as well. Our intention of creating one map is not to challenge or to rival Google. That's not our intention. Our intention of creating one map is to have an authoritative map base so that anyone could use it. And anyone should be able to use it in a responsible manner. The last part that we will do, and I'll talk a little bit about it, is GeoWorks, which we launched just about over a year ago. And it's really a collaborative platform that allows government agencies, the private sector, whether you're a startup, whether you're a scale-up, together with many of the big geospatial companies to come together to create this industry ecosystem. So you can see that the development of geospatial is also changing. In many of our agencies, for example, in the Parks Board, and I have friends from the Parks Board in Singapore coming here, they have started to use geospatial data to map trees in Singapore. Many of you know Singapore as a garden city. We would like to think Singapore is actually a city in a garden, where now the Parks Board is able to map every single tree, and I think the last count I was told there were about between 3 to 4 million trees using geospatial data. The other part that we are looking at is for planning purposes. So my friends from the Urban Redevelopment Authority use geospatial layers that take not only past history of what is in Singapore, mapped together with today's data in order to be able to plan for the future. The security agencies use geospatial data when there are events to be able to monitor traffic, to be able to take advantage of the data in order to be able to preempt any possible security issues. So you can see as a whole, as an ecosystem, there is awareness of the lot of geospatial data and use. But we think that is not enough, because that's only happening for the last 10 to 15 years. We think that now we need to do more. And to do more, we need to probably involve very much of businesses, very much of the private sector, to co-create some of the many solutions that are possible, the infinite number of solutions that you have seen Jack talk about. So what we have done today is to create a platform called GeoWorks. Now, GeoWorks is a small setup. It is not a hugely ambitious setup. It is something that we've created under the Singapore Land Authority, where we build an industry ecosystem which is government-enabled, which is industry-led, and where it is private and public sector driven. So in other words, it's something that we want the private and the public sector to come together to co-create solutions. What do we do at this Geo Industry Center? We put together 3 users: the government, the private sector, as well as the businesses, so that they can come together to be able to architect solutions to solve problems or to solve challenges on the ground. The strength about this is that this is not just a startup space. It is not a place where you basically tell people, hey, I'm giving you free space, please come. Beyond the free space, we make sure that people who come on board find value in being able to interact with each other, being able to work with each other, and more importantly, with the government's support, to be able to find what is relevant out there to solve tomorrow's problems, as well as to know where government should be or should not be. One of the biggest challenges today that I think you'll find in many governments and private sector interactions is that the private sector will literally tell you, I don't want any government intervention. But you will also find that where government steps in with the right intervention, or at least the right regulations, it literally uplifts the entire industry. But this balance is not so easily achieved if first, you do not understand the concerns of businesses, but second, more importantly, you do not understand the needs of the users. We drive Smart Nation in Singapore because we believe that Smart Nation is not just a tagline that enhances Singapore's credibility. We drive Smart Nation in Singapore because we believe that Smart Nation ultimately forms the base upon which a common man on the ground can benefit. It is not about earning millions for the government. It's not about earning billions for businesses. It is really about as simple as how does a handicapped person move from one place to another, under shelter, in the hot weather, and being able to make that decision independently with information about the surroundings. And this is actually what we are trying to do day in, day out. We have several apps today online where we allow citizens to interact with the government. So for example, we have what we call a municipal app where citizens tell us if there's an issue on the ground that needs to be resolved, perhaps rubbish, perhaps a broken street lamp, and so on. In order to allow them to interact with us, what they need to tell us is where the problem lies, what the problem is. And all these are based on a one-map platform that we have produced. So ultimately, when we create an ecosystem like this, it taps into what Jack's point about the intelligent nervous system, where everything comes together seamlessly for decisions to be made. Now, Jack has this vision if I call it again ahead of his time, where he's trying to look at a system of systems, the federated systems. And in fact, we think that with such an idea, it allows more and more people to tap into platforms today that are already existing at very efficient cost and also at a way that has never been done before. So really, at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to have visibility of data, visibility of information, in order to be able to better decision make. So if you can see how we architect GeoWorks, GeoWorks is not limited by boundary. GeoWorks is not something that we say, oh, it's only within a sphere. On a map today, and you'll see Esri right up there as one of our partners in GeoWorks, it is really about trying to bring together an entire ecosystem throughout the world. Sometimes you will have obviously more within the Asia, because Asia is a booming region for geospatial use. Some companies such as Geospatial Media under Sanjay are creating conferences and platforms in Singapore which allow many of the businesses to come together to interact with us. But more importantly, you will see today that geospatial now goes beyond boundaries of countries. It is effectively borderless, it is effectively international. And we hope that by having such an ecosystem, it facilitates the transfer or the transmission or the sharing of information in a much more vibrant way that you will have ever seen before. And this is the part that I think technology can help. A little bit about the dynamics between public and private sector, because this is, I think, an issue that has always come up. We also see that many businesses, the role of that which many businesses play, as well as the government role, is gradually converging. Today, the expectation of a user on the ground is not so much of, you are the government, this is your area, you're the private sector, this is your area. They all expect similar things. They all have similar expectations. They require you to protect their data, and I think Ron has talked a little bit about this earlier. They require you to make sure that their data is not abused. Same requirements that traditionally expected of governments. Responsible use of data. In Singapore, I literally hate it when somebody picks up, you get an anonymous call and says, oh, I've got your number from this registry, can I introduce you to services? So there's a whole range of now responsibility issues and trust issues that I think both the private and public sector needs to work upon together. It is no longer you versus me, but it's really about us coming together. One of the biggest issues that we are trying to tackle in Singapore is really this issue of cybersecurity. That somebody has the ability to hack into your system in order to take your data and misuse them. And this is not only just something that is left for each individual business or governments, but it is really a collective effort to be able to share this, share lessons learned, as well as able to create barriers or solutions against those who misuse the data. So I've said a lot about the role of governments when it comes to geospatial data, a little bit about what Singapore is trying to do. But I leave you with this thought. Jack talks about an intelligent nervous system. But before we reach an intelligent nervous system, okay, you have obviously need to bear in mind, are we very nervous about it? It requires everything to come together seamlessly. Today, unfortunately, I think many of us realize that different interests in the world are polarizing different segments of society. It is no longer so easy to bring together all of us on one platform. I mean, all of you are the converted, so it's much easier in that sense. But there are obviously countries with different agendas. Within each country, there are also segments with different agendas. It is not easy to be able to bring together everybody, because in order to have an intelligent nervous system, the most fundamental thing you require is an alignment of goals, an alignment of focus, and alignment towards the common good. But common good is usually perceived quite differently from one person to another. So as we talk about an intelligent nervous system, and I'm all for it, let me just sound a word of caution. It is probably a nervous journey towards the intelligent nervous system, But I'm fairly convicted and I'm fairly passionate that if we get all things right, in future, we will not only have an intelligent nervous system, but an incredibly stable, intelligent nervous system. With that thought, thank you very much.